everybody. It's Melissa from Adventures of Frugal Mom, and I'm here today chatting with my good friend Linda from Girl Eats World and Linda Eats World.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, how are you doing?
You know what? We're hanging in there.
Yeah, yeah, I know. COVID-19 has got a lot of people crazy.
Yes.
So Linda and I are going to talk to you about how you can help restaurants during this time.
Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Sure, go right ahead.
I think if you have the money to spend on takeout or curbside pickup, to go ahead and buy from your favorite restaurants, because there is a big real risk of them not surviving the pandemic. So if you know that you're going to miss them, if they disappear for good, this is a good time to start buying from them. If you can't afford to buy takeout all the time, there are other ways you can support them. A lot of the restaurants have GoFundMe's linked on their social media profiles and their websites. They have, I know, Coca Cinnamon has a initiative. They have an initiative where they sell 230 coffee bags a day, they're able to keep their employees paid. So there's ways to do your research, to kind of basically just follow them on social media and see what else they're doing that could help them. So instead of spending $50 on one meal, you can still do what you can. It could just be money directly to them. I know so many restaurants right now have GoFundMe's for their employees, so that's a great way. Another way is giving their social media posts engagement. So marketing is really important right now, but there's not a lot of ad dollars to put behind your initiatives. So a way you can help your small business friends and restaurants is to engage with their content. And when you do that, it increases it increases the reach of the post. So they're able to tell their story and how they're pivoting to a wider audience.
Tell me, how did you get involved in helping the restaurants? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I've been a food blogger since 2009. I started in Texas and I moved to North Carolina a little over 2 years ago. It'll be 3 years in August. And so I've just always been someone who will share what I'm eating, try to get people excited about local restaurants. And so it's just like it's become second nature to me. It's part of my job now to help promote restaurants. And then sometimes restaurants will hire me to do photography. So it's kind of, everyone's connected. Even if you're not a photographer, even if you're not a food industry person, you're obviously eating food. And that's, I think, the story that we need to remember, or the lesson that we need to remember during this crazy time is, it may feel like it's better to hoard and be selfish, but we're all connected. And if one subsection of our community is hurting, then we're all hurting. So even if you think you should be selfish, it is selfish to care about others too.
Yeah, that's true. Now, tell me, the restaurants in Raleigh, what are some of the ones that you normally work with?
I right now am not really professionally working with any restaurants because their budgets are kind of cut. So they're not hiring me for photography. But some of my favorite restaurants that I love to push to my audiences, in Cary, there's Koan. I talk about Koan all the time. Also in Cary is Asali, which is the dessert place. She makes amazing desserts. There's just really hard to list favorite restaurants. I have a long list of, on my blog, a long list of restaurants that are open for takeout and delivery. I love Rosewater. I believe they're closed right now though, but they do have a GoFundMe open for all the restaurants from that restaurant group. But yeah, that's off the top of my head. I know those are 2 Cary restaurants. Raleigh is a 45-minute drive from me.
Yeah, that's right. You're in Chapel Hill, right?
Yeah. I love Namu in Durham. I spend a lot of my time there too, before all this craziness. So those are some of my favorite restaurants and coffee shops. I just spent some time at Cloche Coffee in Durham, right? I did a photo shoot with them. They were so sweet. I posted a giveaway on my Instagram. I wanted to start small to see how it goes first. And so I started with 5. I wanted to give away 5 photo shoots to businesses in need. And Clush Coffee actually reached out, and they wanted to give me some money. And so I just told them to pay what they want, pay what they can, and I'll extend it from 30 minutes to an hour. And so I just spent some time taking photos. I'm going to try to blog about them today and post on Instagram today, but they're super sweet and gorgeous coffee shop space.
Yeah. Plus they have plants too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I had to Google what cloche means, and it's the bell shape. It's a glass covering for plants. And so I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense to me. Like why they're tying it into their aesthetics, the wall of succulents and plants, and it's beautiful.
We have a question from Lucy. She says, have you tried the market groceries?
Yes, I've tried. Have you?
No, Lucy has, I believe. I believe
Yeah.
Lucy has.
I think we both tried Koan, if I remember correctly from seeing your Instagram stories, Lucy. But yeah, so I used the grocery store, converted grocery store from Koan, and it was a really great experience. Someone reached out to me and asked, they told me they were afraid to go to restaurants and do pickup and curbside pickup. And they said that they felt like it was dangerous, but my experience was that it felt actually safer than going to the grocery store. I know at Koan, they're not letting any employees work if you feel any kind of sickness, even if you think it's allergies. So there's no one going in and out of their restaurants except for employees. So that already limits the amount of exposure to public versus a grocery store. And they do a good job of letting you see that they're doing contactless pickup. So you just open up you can either unlock your doors and they can pop it in the back seat, or you can pop your trunk and they'll pop the groceries in the trunk. So it felt safer than going to the grocery store.
Actually, yes, I saw when you picked up from Koan.
Yeah. The sous chef, Antoine.
Yeah, your little intern.
Yeah.
Lucy said yes at Driftwood. She's tried Driftwood.
That's awesome that they're doing that. I love Driftwood. I haven't had their grocery experience because it's kind of further away from me, but I love that restaurants are becoming more creative on how they can serve their community and stay afloat.
So Linda's also a photographer. So besides talking about the restaurants and how we can help restaurants, how can you help photographers? Because a lot of photographers are really struggling at this time.
So I lost a lot of my gigs. When it started to get really serious, I was actually in Texas for work, and I had about 7 gigs total. And from 7 gigs, it went down to 3. So while I was there, it was just like quickly changing. People were, first of all, I don't know if you heard of, it's a really big festival in Austin called South by Southwest. It's huge. Thousands of people from around the world come to Austin. It brings in millions of dollars to Austin. And the mayor decided to cancel South by Southwest, which made so many people upset, even me at the time, because I didn't understand the gravity of COVID-19 yet. And instantly things started to drop. So not only did I lose my gig that was tied to South by Southwest, which was my biggest gig, I started to have people who had photo shoots not feel safe to do their photo shoots. There was a photo shoot that had multiple people, and then some of the people backed out of that shoot, so it didn't make sense to still have it. So there were a couple of actions that were really sweet, and I still think about these clients because it meant so much to me. One client, instead of getting her money back, just decided to let me keep the retainer, and then we'll just do a rain check for the shoot. So that was really helpful. And then another, she is soon to be client, is really sweet. She's just been following my work for a while. She reached out to me and asked if she could prepay for a shoot. And that was really touching because we've never worked together before, and I really needed the income. And so, of course, I took her up on it. But that was really touching because I wasn't asking for it. I know that asking for help is actually one of the first steps to getting help. So that's something photographers could do that I just haven't felt comfortable doing. But yes, Lisa says retainers and rain checks. Yes, definitely retainers and rain checks. So I've gotten, no one asked for refunds, even though I offered, and that was really, really helpful. So instead of refunds, it was a rain check and then prepaying for photo shoots. Another way I've been telling people that you can help if you don't have money, and a lot of people have lost their jobs, is just engaging with the content of your favorite local businesses and freelancers. So you have a photographer that you love, they are posting on social media. It doesn't cost you anything to give them a like or a comment. And it may feel very minute, but it actually helps increase the reach of that Instagram post or that social media post. And if you increase the reach, then there's a higher chance that someone might be able to connect with that freelancer or photographer and work out something, do a collaboration. Another thing you can do is be creative. If you're a business and you need a photographer and you still have the bandwidth, you don't actually have to have, you can still have social distancing in your photo shoots. So if you have a product-based thing, so if you have, say you're selling candles, you can actually ship your candles to the photographer and they can take photos for you. So I've been lucky to get a couple of gigs that way. I styled some sourdough bread for this company and I didn't have to see anybody. It was just dropped in the mail.
We have a couple of, like Lucy, as I said, I miss getting my pictures too.
Yeah.
We have some people watching. We had Lucy watching, Peggy Henderson is watching. She's actually, I grew up with her son. Mary Lee is watching. Cassidy Morris is watching.
Hey,
and Lisa is watching.
Hey, I hope you guys are staying sane.
So how are you dealing with COVID? Because I know your mom is in Texas.
My mom is in Texas. I've been very lucky that I have a very strong support group in Houston and Austin. And my friends have been really great about reaching out to me and seeing if they can drop off groceries. So I have a friend dropped off groceries about a week ago, and then someone else dropped groceries about 2.5 weeks ago. So we're doing okay with not having to strain one person for help constantly. So that's been very helpful. I've been trying to call her every weekday just to check in on her. She had a leg up on the quarantine life. She's been a widow for about a year now and she doesn't drive. So that gave her practice on living on her own in kind of an isolated kind of way. So she doesn't have that big of a culture shock that a lot of people are experiencing right now. As for me, I am very much an extrovert, and I miss working. So what's helped is taking longer walks with the dogs. To get some sunshine, actually. Before COVID, sometimes I'll walk the dogs at nighttime, and that doesn't do that great for your mental boost. So sunshine has been great for me. I've never been a person that enjoys being outside. Like I'm not a nature person, but I have become more of a dog walker during the day just to get some fresh air. I try to take it easy. Sometimes I shame myself for not working too hard or just binging. And then I'm like, you know what? There's a literal pandemic outside my window right now. I'm allowed to, take the time I need to just kind of distract myself from the craziness that's going on. What about you? What have you been doing?
Me, basically going Facebook Live, taking challenges and trying to write. And I've meal planned a lot. We used to eat out all the time, but now I'm cooking more. But we do take 2 days a week and support local restaurants. But the rest of the time I'm cooking.
That's awesome.
But I'm also supporting local farmers when I'm ordering meat directly from them instead of going to the grocery store and getting them. So that helps out a lot.
Have you discovered any new recipes since being quarantined?
No, but I've discovered some of the old recipes.
Oh yeah, like the recipes that you haven't done in a while. You're like, oh, I haven't done this in a while.
Yeah.
That's
Lucy said, yes, give yourself grace. And Lisa says, got to give ourselves and others grace. That's what Lisa said.
Yes. It's funny because the guilt will start talking if you spend I do it to myself. I spent all Friday and Saturday in bed watching Hulu and Netflix, and I just started feeling like I was a waste of space. And I was like, it's okay. Because what would I tell my friends if they told me that, which they have? They'd be like, oh, I'm having trouble focusing. I keep getting that from my friends. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to focus. It's really hard to focus right now. You're not alone. This is a very normal reaction to the world right now. It's a huge thing.
Lucy said, I just made cupcakes. Of course she just made cupcakes.
Ooh, send some over.
Yeah, that's what I want. Every time she's talking, every time she sends me stuff, she sends me pictures. Look what I just made. I'm like, really?
I love it.
Are you one of the brides that are having to reschedule weddings yet? Or
I have no idea. My date is October, and I'm stalling on. So I was already putting off planning because planning hasn't really been a joy for me. Just because I was low budget. But now that there's this pandemic, I'm like, do I even need to plan? We don't know how long this is going to last, and there might be a resurgence. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Luckily, I haven't put down a lot of money yet, so I don't have to worry about refunds and deposits quite yet. But it's still kind of a weird thing to have up in the air. What a weird world we are living in right now.
Mm-hmm. Very weird.
Yeah. How's your mental health?
Sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
Yeah, that's my answer too.
Yeah, except some days it's great. And yesterday, give everybody a little heads up, Linda and I were supposed to go live yesterday, but my internet went out. And so, yeah. And Linda was on. I'm like, oh, crap, I can't get on. So yeah, definitely the internet's been slower because people are getting on Zoom calls and all these kind of calls. So we've kind of had to rearrange.
Yeah, I see that. I can totally see that. Man, well, everyone who's watching, if you could tell us what else you've been doing besides making delicious cupcakes to stay sane. Journaling has helped. I don't know if anyone's journaling their feelings, but I've been journaling and that's been helping.
I have to give a shout out right now. My middle daughter, Michaela, just said hi. She's actually watching. She went back to Greensboro today to meet with her student. With her teachers. Lucy says she's been working out. So
I need to somehow develop a taste for working out.
If you're walking your dogs, that's part of working out.
Okay, right? There we go. Yeah.
You're walking, you're getting physical exercise in.
Agreed.
Lucy has to work out because she's making all those cupcakes. She has to work the cupcakes out. Right, Lucy?
Luckily, I don't bake because if I baked, I would make the cupcakes and not work out. So I'm like.
Now, the most important question I have to ask you is, have you had a Takis shortage yet?
No, I haven't. I have some behind me right now, but yes.
I know I'm going to put you on the spot, but can you show them how you eat Takis?
Yeah. Do you want me to go and grab
Yeah, real quick. Linda has a really cool way that she eats Takis so that, most of the time when you're eating stuff, you get like Cheetos or anything like that, you get them on your hands. Well, she's got a really cool way. And if you follow her on Instagram, she's Linda Eats Good on Instagram, and she has some great content. She has some really great food. If you don't watch her Instagram if you're hungry. Don't go to your Instagram if you're hungry, because you'll be even hungrier once you see her Instagram.
People think I'm sponsored by Takis, but I am not. I just am obsessed with them. I wish they would sponsor me because that would save me some money because I buy Takis all the time. So these are chopsticks. I got to tell you why I started doing this. I also do consulting for small businesses and influencers, and this food truck hired me to kind of do consulting on their social media. Their social media needed help and they needed some guidance. And so I was showing this food truck owner how to use her stories. And I looked down and I'm on my phone and showing her in person. And then my fingers and my thumb were pink as I'm scrolling. And I washed my hands. My hands were clean, but they stain your fingers for a couple of days. And it's kind of embarrassing. As a photographer, a portrait photographer, I actually had a client recently in February. He had I was taking photos and I noticed his pink fingers were pink, and I was like, oh no, what were they? Were they Takis or hot Cheetos? But if you use chopsticks, you're able to eat without getting your fingers stained.
Have to work out mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, mind, body, and spirit.
How do you work out spiritually and emotionally, Lisa?
Let's see if she comments.
I'd love to know how you work out emotionally and emotionally and mentally. For me, mentally, a workout could be reading a book or writing. I'm not sure what my workout would be spiritually, like how I would be able to work on myself. So I'd love some tips.
Lucy, send a crying face emoji. Crying face emoji, like.
Lucy, do you ever get pink fingers?
Actually, I just watched an episode of Heart of Dixie on Netflix. If you've never watched it, it's really cool. And the lady there is allergic to the red dye. And somebody had eaten like cheese Flavors, which was like Cheetos. And they had put it on her microphone and she started swallowing, like, and so that's really cool that you do that because then you won't get that dye on your fingers.
I could be doing live.
We have April Wilson watching. She is. I think you're breaking up, Lucy. Linda.
Lisa says that she works out spiritually by spending time in prayer and meditating, which is awesome. I want to start learning how to meditate.
And then we have April watching. April is actually our dog groomer. I actually wrote a blog about her, a day in the life of a dog groomer, the first day that Allie went to go see her. And awesome. I think they're still open because if I'm right, she has an appointment on Thursday. Allie does. I'm waiting for April to send it back to me. So, awesome. So is there anything else you want to share, like where we can find you or anything like that?
Yeah, I am usually on the couch these days, so any DMs would be greatly appreciated. On Instagram, I'm Linda Eats World. I'm also Linda Eats World on Facebook and Twitter, and my photography is Curious Notions Photo. Thank you so much for having me on.
Lucy says, I don't. I started watching Joyce Myers in the morning, my Bible app, and also a 3-minute prayers journal. Awesome. And then Lisa said, mentally, what you fuel your mind with, what you read, watch, your self-talk, having an attitude of gratitude.
I love the attitude of gratitude. I feel like that is one of the life-changing things I've adopted maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I force myself, like I try to do, my best friend and I will email each other Monday to Friday every morning, 3 things that we're happy about. We call it Happy 3 Things.
Oh, I love that.
On the days that are really bad, sometimes I force myself to do 10. And if it's a really shitty day, then I force myself to do 25 because you can always find 3 things. But if you really force yourself, you can find 25 things, even on a really crappy day, because you can start breaking it down. Like it's pretty awesome that we have Wi-Fi. No one ever is thankful for Wi-Fi until you don't have it. Or it's really great. My dad suffered a stroke before he passed away, and watching him struggle through stroke recovery, it made me realize that I took for granted the ability to swallow. I had to watch him try to learn how to swallow. So I don't know, like on a really crappy day, I challenge you to do even 10 things instead of 3 things that you're grateful for, because you can really break it down. There's so much that we take for granted. Especially when things are crappy, we forget about the things that we have.
Mm-hmm. Lisa says, oh, I love that. Accountability. Keep a blessing journal too.
Yeah. Recently, I used to keep a gratitude journal too, and it popped up on my Facebook memories that on April 6th, April 6th in 2006, I wrote that I was thankful for Fruit Loops, and I actually wrote it down in my journal. I was like, I'm grateful for Fruit Loops. And I'm like,
who wouldn't be grateful for Fruit Loops? Come on. So to recap, to help local restaurants buy gift cards. And what else did you say?
Follow them on Instagram and see what they're doing. Some restaurants, even though they're not open, they'll have a GoFundMe. It's really important because I'm watching, especially in Austin right now. I split my time between Texas and North Carolina. Some of the really OG restaurants are now closing permanently. It's not even a temporary close anymore. They are literally going out of business. So if you have any money to spare, giving to the restaurants, either by buying takeout or their GoFundMe. Another way you can look is to see if they're doing anything special. Koan, we talked about Koan, and they pivot to being a grocery store and on top of being a restaurant, so that you can still get takeout, but you can also get groceries. Some places will have products, so you can buy swag, t-shirts, cups. That's another way that you can kind of help them with their cash flow. Gift cards are really important. My friend Janet Denfish, I recently did a free shoot for her too, and she was pushing gift cards because that will help get some cash flow. Most of the places are doing delivery, but if there's any way you can pick up, that will help them, especially if the delivery is through Grubhub or a third party, because they take it's like as high as like a third of the commission and so you're still helping the restaurant, but if you can manage to drive to pick it up, they could also keep more money in their books instead of having to pay the third party. Those are the things. And then if you can't do any of that because you lost your job like millions of other Americans, there's other ways you can help promoting them. You can share whatever stories, social media part. So engaging with their content. If there is like a new product that or a new recipe or a new dish that a restaurant is doing and that you think is really great, you can just push that to your stories and just kind of help them spread their word, even if you can't financially support them.
Now, how has it affected you as a food blogger? Because I know you had to kind of shift some of the way you write, right?
Yeah. So I think when it first started to go down, I spent 2 weeks of just being frozen. Because one, I didn't even know if I should be going out to eat. So that was the biggest thing. And then two, like the content that I have, there's always a backlog. In my calendar, I was supposed to be promoting traveling. I had a trip to Shreveport, Louisiana, and I still had 2 more blog posts I was supposed to write about them. And then I still haven't written my restaurant guide to Charleston, South Carolina. And so I just didn't feel right pushing out a restaurant guide. And it just kept me frozen for a bit, because if you don't write it, it won't gain traction later to get you traffic when it becomes pertinent. But it just felt a tad tone deaf at the time to write a travel guide. So I just had to take a minute and feel like it was so sad, because I not only spent so much time photographing these places and coming up with these ideas, but literally traveled to some of these places. I had to drive 5 hours to Charleston, and now I'm not writing about it. It just was a lot to process for me. But I've finally accepted that this is just the way life is sometimes. We can't predict everything and plan for everything. So once I got over that, I started, I shared a couple of 5-minute recipes. I'm not a recipe writer. I started promoting restaurants that are open and I had a list of restaurants in the Triangle that are open for curbside and delivery. That did really well because people do want to help. They just don't know where. So I've just been trying to pivot content wise, and it's just been so challenging. What about you? Have you changed the way you write for your blog?
Like I had a couple, like I was going to write about, a styling session I did at the florist market that I had, written a while back, but I hadn't posted it yet because I wanted to do my Women in Business series, which if you follow the Women in Business series, Linda was the very first one that I actually promoted on that. And we ended up with one of the Real Housewives of Dallas was on there as well. So you're in good company, Linda.
I know. I feel so honored. Thank you so much for including me.
Yeah, but there's like stories that I want to write that I just feel like are tone deaf right now. So it's kind of hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of want to pocket them and maybe write them and not publish them yet, just so that you don't lose the memory of it. It just doesn't become like a blur in case it becomes useful. But that's such a hard pill to swallow, because there might never be a time for you to post that now. And so that might be gone forever. But that is life.
And then real quick, how can you help photographers? Recap what you said again.
Yeah, for photographers, same thing with the social media engagement. If they're posting to social media and you happen to see it, give it a like or a comment. It might feel like it's nothing when you do that, but it actually helps that piece of social media content to get a greater reach. And then also, I've had really sweet people prepay for shoots. I had a shoot that I was supposed to be shooting in the beginning of April. It was supposed to be my 4th birthday for this cute kid. I've photographed his 1st, 2nd, and 3rd birthday, and this was our yearly. And I was ready to give them a referral for someone who was local to Houston, but she so sweetly said that she'll take that rain check. So if you're willing to do rain checks, it really means the world to your photographer friends. Also, if you have any referrals, there are people who still need photos. Front porch photos are great, and for your businesses, you can still practice social distancing and health safety precautions. Just talk to your photographer. For instance, you can ship product to the photographer and she can shoot like in her own space, so you don't actually have to interact. I've done a couple of shoots where I wear a face mask and gloves, and we have hand sanitizer on, and it's just, we try to be very, we are very careful about honoring people's health. Lucy says that she'll be writing today. That's awesome. I'm going to try to crank out a blog post today too.
Yeah. So did that hurt your streak at all?
Did that what?
Did it hurt your streak of blog posts?
No. I didn't blog 1 week, but I gave myself a freebie because I blogged twice in a week the week before. So my average is still once a week. So I'm doing okay. I think my next challenge is going to see if I can up it to twice a week or maybe twice every other week, just because I'm home more. And I feel like writing is one of those things that the more you write, the more you can write. So I feel like I just feel like if you get into a regular practice, it gets easier to crank out ideas. Whereas if you take long breaks in between your writing sessions, it's a little harder to kind of get into the groove. So maybe I'll do some more writing, or I'll just go back to the couch and watch Hulu.
For those that don't know, Linda challenged herself to write one blog post a week, and she's been doing great in her streak. And how many weeks have you been going doing stuff?
I think I surpassed a year. I haven't counted in a while, but I haven't missed. The last time I told you it was like 40 something. So I think it's been about 10 weeks since I've last talked to you about how long my streak has been going. It's challenging. People, when you blog, I think an outsider perspective of blogging is that it's easy. But it's actually, it's not rocket science. It is easy in the sense that it's not complicated, but the hardest part is showing up regularly, like consistency, at least for me and the bloggers that I know.
Yep. So is there anything else you would care to share?
I think that's it for me. Thank you so much again for letting me pop in on your Facebook.
And thank you for agreeing to it, especially after yesterday in the snafu. I'm like, oh my gosh. So Linda, you can find her Linda Eats World on Instagram, and Girl Eats World everywhere else.
Yes. No, Linda Eats World everywhere else, and then my website is girleatsworld.co.
And Curious Notions Photography. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the Raleigh-Durham area, or even in the Texas area, and you're looking for a photographer, Linda does an amazing job of photography. So look her up.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.